Hi, I'm Katya Mendoza with Arizona Public Media.
Hi, I'm Ranger Jordan Camp at Saguaro National Park.
We're here to talk about extreme heat. It's pretty hot.
It's a bit warm already, yeah.
So the heat can do pretty amazing things out here in the desert. Speaking of which, you made a little something for us.
I did. I made something for a sweet way to remember that it's very hot out. For those who follow our social media accounts, you may be familiar with this, but each year we cook something in the car. If we went back to a classic cookie recipe, this year I did some science. Chocolate chip versus sugar cookies. I personally think the sugar cookies turned out okay. However, I actually overcooked these this year. I cooked them for about 3.5 hours in the car. Usually I only do it for about 2.5 hours and they turn out perfect. But your dashboard out here, if it's over 100 degrees, your dashboard can get to over 200 degrees within an hour or two.
Wow.
It gets very, very hot. So while we have fun with cookies, it's a good lesson. You don't want to leave something in the car, especially something alive, but even things like a can of soda, especially a cell phone. I mean, I had a cell phone explode in my car when I was in high school. Had a 12-pack of Coca-Cola explode in the back seat of my car one time. Shrapnel went everywhere. It's serious. It's something you don't think about, but everything in your car will melt. But yeah, feel free to grab one.
Those are cooked all right.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Jordan, tell me a little bit about how summer is not necessarily over, even though students might be going back to school.
Well, I mean, you can feel it, right? Yeah, that just because we're going back to school and life's moving on doesn't mean that the temperatures are going down anytime soon. We're probably going to see them extending out likely until like September, maybe even early October. Last year was a pretty late summer as well. So just something to keep in mind. Be prepared. Always think ahead, and just because it's nice in the morning doesn't mean it's going to be nice in the afternoon. So make sure you have plenty of water out there, sun protection, and all that.
All the important things.
Mm-hmm.
So this past summer, I noticed that there were quite a few rescues from hikers going out in the middle of the day. Is that unusual?
Unfortunately, it is not unusual. We do see quite a bit of search and rescue operations throughout each summer, all around Tucson. And we have incredible people that help with that. Arizona Search and Rescue is incredible. People here do great work. But yeah, it's an unfortunate situation. And a lot of people always assume they're like, oh, it's people coming from out of state, people that are not acclimated. Something that people should probably remember is about half of those heat-related illnesses that we see in Arizona are from people that have lived here for maybe 20 or more years. So just because you're a resident doesn't mean the sun can't affect you. I mean, we've been here for a while, and even here at 8 in the morning, we're both sweating, and we're Tucson residents.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about heat-related illness? What sort of symptoms might people be feeling while they're on their hike?
Great question. So there are two main heat illnesses that we're looking out for: heat exhaustion and heat stroke. And I happen to bring this fun little guide to walk us through it. When you're out there, they're gonna feel very similar. So definitely take caution regardless of if you feel like, however you're feeling. If you're starting to feel weird and off, take note, get into the shade and get rest. But heat exhaustion is you're gonna feel dizzy, you're gonna feel thirsty, heavy sweating, nausea and weakness. However, when you get into heat stroke, which is what we're really, really worried about, that's when you're gonna be feeling really confused, the dizziness really sets in, and that's where we can lead to unconsciousness and other worse situations. So for that, you definitely wanna call 911, get some help. But generally, if you just start feeling uneasy when you're out in the desert, take a break, find some shade if you can. If you're feeling thirsty, you're already starting to get dehydrated. You're already past that point. So being proactive is very important. We joke around here, act like a saguaro, think long term, stay sharp, be prepared, and that's part of that. Another one that people don't always consider, because we drink a lot of water, we're getting our fluids in, is something called hyponatremia, and that's when you're actually flushing out all of your salts. And so that's why we mentioned bring some salty snacks on a hike. That way you can replenish those electrolytes if you don't have some sort of sports drink packet or something.
So whenever I've gone hiking, sometimes I notice my hands start to get real fat and swell up. What is exactly happening when that happens?
Generally, it's the blood rushing to your hands. Sometimes I'll hike like that. You see something like cops will hold their vest like this, or hiking poles are really good for that. I heard someone say it the other day, and I love this quote: hiking poles are hiking in 4-wheel drive. And so it's not just to look cool, but it really does help distribute the load and keep your hands elevated so they're not constantly down. Other little things can play into that. Like I said, the salt levels, your fluid levels. But generally, you know, you're walking like this. The centrifugal motion is just throwing blood down to your fingers the whole time.
And so here in the desert, what are peak heat hours and maybe times that people should avoid going on a hike?
Great question as well. We generally advise in the summer to get back to the trailhead by at least 10 a.m. and don't hike again until at least after 4 p.m. Personally, I might say even push that a little bit. Wait till the sun goes down. Anyone who lives in Arizona at all is probably familiar with what's called the urban heat island effect. So when you got a lot of rocks, you got a lot of concrete, it takes a while for that to cool down. So the morning is going to be a lot cooler than the afternoon. You know, even if it's dark at 8 o'clock at night, the residual heat from the rocks and everything is still going to make it pretty warm. So we suggest, if you can, start before sunrise. Really enjoy the beauty of the desert as the sun is rising, enjoy those cooler temperatures. You're gonna experience a lot more wildlife because that's when they're out as well. And then, you know, go home and relax and enjoy the inside shade and AC for the rest of the day.
And so my time of year is monsoon season. However, is it safe to go on a hike when it's overcast and cloudy?
Yes and no. Again, thinking long term, being cautious, think about flash floods and lightning. Those are probably the two biggest concerns that we're gonna think about with monsoons. So if you're familiar with the term of a wash, it's a dry riverbed. Out here, that's something you might wanna avoid if you see those overcast clouds coming in. Because it might be super bone dry in that wash, but it just takes, you know, one rainstorm a couple miles away to get that flash flood going. And I have personally been stuck in a flash flood, not something you want to experience. Additionally, on the opposite end of that spectrum, you don't want to be hiking on a ridge line because of lightning. A saguaro is a very tall spire full of water, and that is conductive of electricity. So you don't want to be anywhere near that if it gets struck by lightning.
About how many visitors does Saguaro National Park East and West see during the summer and during the winter months?
In the winter, I used to average about 1,500 to 2,000 people a day. In the summer, it's maybe 100 on a good day, especially if we have a lot of people traveling from overseas for their holiday. That number gets up, but there have been days that I've seen maybe 5 people the whole day. So it's very hit or miss.
And so we touched briefly on some of the tips in terms of preparation before you set out to go on your hike. We got sunscreen, staying hydrated, salty snacks. Are we missing anything else?
Well, sun protection in general, there's a lot, not just sunscreen. Long sleeve shirts are really important, long sleeve, light fabric. You'll usually see some of our maintenance people, but we'll have these kind of reflective long sleeve shirts on all the time, and that works as our sunscreen. Wide brim hats are really important, sunglasses, all that type of stuff.
And what about shoes?
Good ankle support is always important, especially if you're going to be hiking in the trails here. We have a lot of like rocky trails.
Maybe not my Converse.
Maybe not. I don't know. For a really short trail, it might not be the end of the world, especially something like Desert Discovery or Desert Ecology, which are paved. Those would be okay. But you think about it's thin rubber and that hot rock you're walking on. If you're walking for more than a mile, you're really going to start to feel it. I feel it in my boots. We were joking earlier, you know, this isn't so much out here in the park, but when I used to go to the U of A and I'd see people come in August, a lot of the new students, you know, you're either bringing clothes and footwear from home, or maybe you're just stopping by the store and getting something cheap to move in. Avoid the really thin sandals. I've seen people crossing 6th Street there to get the U of A and their sandals just melt to the asphalt and they have to hop across. That can be very jarring if you're not ready for it.
So Jordan, we were talking about how people can stay safe in the park. What about their pets?
Wonderful, wonderful question. First thing I like to point out is if you can't walk barefoot, your pets probably shouldn't be walking barefoot either. And you don't have to take off shoes. Easy way to test that is just put the back of your hand to the ground. If it burns, it's gonna burn your pet's feet too. They're not doing the happy dance. They're doing the hot pavement dance. And that's pretty cruel to an animal to do that. So first thing, booties are always a great thing. I know that not every dog likes them, but getting them used to them is really, really important, especially if you want to go on hikes a lot here in the desert. Thinking about things like cactus and little spines on the ground. So where are you taking them? We have a pretty limited trail selection when it comes to pets. Desert Discovery, Desert Ecology, Mica Trail. Basically, Anything that is a paved surface or a roadway is generally accepted for pets. One over on the west side, the Golden Gate Multi-Use Trail used to be a road, so it's a wide dirt path. So that one, while it's great, just remember, like, if you're walking along the edge of it, be careful because there might be cacti that have broken off. Think about the animals that may be under bushes. Our noses aren't as good as dogs, so they're gonna be smelling everything. And snakes, particularly rattlesnakes, really like to hide under these little bushes and kind of secluded areas. So you're not gonna be able to see the snake before your dog does. So just being very, very vigilant of what's around you. Don't let a dog off leash, even if it's been your best bud for 15 years and you trust it. All it takes is one rabbit, one thing to get it to just dart off into the wilderness.
Well, Jordan, thank you so much for chatting with us today and the sweet treat.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Tom McNamara, host of Arizona Illustrated. Thanks so much for watching this story from our show. And for more local stories from Arizona Illustrated, just click right here.